We live in a new era in geopolitics, and it's going to require all of us to sort of re-examine what that looks like and what our role is going to be. Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, said in Washington on February 13th before heading to attend the Munich Security Conference. The old world is gone, he said. Hello and welcome to The Hindu. This is Stanley Johnny, your International Affairs Editor. The old world Mr. Rubio referred to was the one in which Western dominance prevailed unchallenged. On February 14th, while addressing the conference in Munich, he hailed the colonial period as a phase of the West's expansion. For 5 centuries before the end of the Second World War, the West had been expanding. Its missionaries, its pilgrims, its soldiers, its explorers pouring out from its shores to cross oceans, settle new continents, build vast empires extending out across the globe, said Mr. Rubio. Of course, with no reference to the crimes and loot of colonialism. But in 1945, he continued, for the first time since the age of Columbus, it was contracting. Europe was in ruins. The great Western empires had entered into terminal decline, accelerated by godless communist revolutions and anti-colonial uprisings that would transform the world, added Mr. Rubio. The anti-colonial uprisings he lamented would include American Revolution of the 18th century and the Indian national movement of the 20th century. Interestingly, Mr. Rubio's comments come just a few months ahead of the 250th anniversary of the United States independence from Britain. This managed decline, in Mr. Rubio's words, was accelerated by 2 things. First, waves of mass migration to the western part of the world from the rest that threatens the cohesion of Western societies and the continuity of its culture. Second, the West embraced a dogmatic vision of free trade, he said, which benefited its adversaries, who protected their economies and took control of critical supply chains. He is here referring to China and other growing economies in the global south, including India, without naming them. Mr. Rubio was reiterating what US Vice President J.D. Vance said in Munich last year. According to Mr. Vance, the liberal, free trade, pro-immigration policies of Western democracies have accelerated the decline of the West, while America's adversaries kept growing, altering the balance in the global order. The change in the balance of power led to the collapse of the old order. Mr. Rubio did not stop there. The system of international cooperation and institutions must be reformed and rebuilt, he said. The United Nations could not resolve the war in Gaza, Mr. Rubio said. But he did not mention the fact that both the Trump and Biden administrations had repeatedly vetoed resolutions in the UN Security Council that were critical of Israel, their ally. It was the American leadership that freed captives from barbarians and brought about a fragile truce, said Mr. Rubio about Gaza, without, of course, touching upon Israel's continued bombings in Gaza or its devastation of the Palestinian enclave, where at least 75,000 people, mostly women and children, were killed in 2 years. If the UN is in decline, what is the way forward? According to Mr. Rubio, American unilateralism is the answer. He credited the Trump administration with bringing Russia and Ukraine to talks, even though the war is still continuing ferociously. Mr. Rubio claimed that the United States constrained the nuclear program of radical Shia clerics of Iran. He was referring to the June war, but today the United States is preparing for another war against Iran. He also claimed that the United States Special Forces brought Nicolas Maduro, Venezuela's president, to justice, quote unquote, referring to the January 3rd American attack of the South American country and the abduction of its sitting president. In Mr. Rubio's worldview, international law is an abstraction. Unilateralism is effective leadership, and sovereignty of weaker powers, such as Iran and Venezuela, is non-existent, and the rights of the Palestinian people exist only on the fringes of the old world. If Mr. Vance disparaged the European model of governance and defense, Mr. Rubio offered a window for Europe to join hands with America. We are part of one civilization, he said, Western civilization. We are bound to one another by the deepest bonds that nations could share, forged by centuries of shared history, Christian faith, culture, heritage, language, ancestry, and the sacrifices our forefathers made together for the common civilization to which we have fallen heir, he said in Munich. But the new alliance, according to him, should be rooted in common civilizational heritage rather than geopolitical commonalities. We in America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline. We do not seek to separate, but to revitalize an old friendship and renew the greatest civilization in human history, he added. Mr. Rubio said America is charting a new path for a new century of prosperity, and he wants Europe with the United States in this civilization revitalization mission. The crowd in Munich applauded when Mr. Rubio ended his speech. Thanks for watching. For more such videos, please subscribe to The Hindu. This is Stanley Johnny.